Hello guys and welcome back. Today we are going to be learning about functions in JavaScript. So in today's video we are going to be learning about function declaration, expression and arrow function. Functions is something you will be using a lot when writing code. Function is like a block of code that like a given instruction that you compile in some kind of a block and you ask it to run whenever you want it to. And how do you declare a function in JavaScript? To declare a function in JavaScript, we use the keyword called function. After then you give your function a name. Let me call this my function. Then once you have given it a name, you put your parentheses, open and close parentheses. Then once you are done with that, then you put your curly braces, then you open. This is how to create a function. Then what should this my function do? Let's just log. I just want to log something to the console. And once I log into the console, I'll just write my first function and save it. So if I head to my browser and reload, now nothing is in the console. Why? The reason is because whenever you create a function like this, nothing will actually happen until you call the function. This is we creating a function, but for us to make the function work, we need to call it. So how do we call a function? We go into part of our code that I want to use the function, we call the name of the function, my function, then put a parenthesis like this. Now we've called this function. Whenever I save this and I head over to my browser and refresh once again, now you can see it has been logged to my function, to my console rather. Now I hope you understand what's going on here. I create my function and I want to use my function and I call the function or invoke the function like they usually say. Now this is just a simple function. Function actually does a whole lot and I will be giving you some examples. And one of the examples I would love to give you is this. But before I give you, let's look at another thing a function can do. A function takes parameters. You can put parameters here, as many parameters as you like. You can put a lot of parameters here that a function can take. Let's say for example, let me comment out this code. I want to create a function called multiply. Remember, a function can take more than one parameters and you separate the parameters with comma. I can name the first parameter A. I can name the parameter B. Then I will open my parentheses, my curly braces rather. Then what do I want the function to do? Since I have these parameters here, or they call them arguments, I can say okay, then what I want is A times B. After A times B is as I want to log it into the console, A multiplied by B. So once I save this, I can call this function like this and say multiply. Then since this function has parameter, I need to put the parameter. What will A represent? Then let's say my A is 2, represent 2, and my B let's say is 3. Once I save this and I go back to my browser and I refresh, I can see 6 in the console. Now that means I can do this multiple times. That's the advantage of function. You can use your function to do things multiple times. You can decide to change the number. You can decide to change it. Let me just reduce it to 2. You can decide to change the number 5, 10, and you see it will still give you, it will multiply the 5 multiplied by 10, which is 50. You can see a single function can do a lot of multiplication because why? You've already given it the instruction to do. So any parameter that you pass into it, then it will run the instruction using the parameters. I hope this is clear. So this is basically what function does. And one of the things that we have in function that I'm here to introduce is the return keyword. Sometimes your function might not just do just simple thing like this. It might do a whole lot. Let's take for example, I have a function that takes an array as a parameter. Let's say I have a function called sum array values. Let me just, you can give it any names, just at least let the name make sense. And the function will take an array as an argument. You can name it anything. I just name it arr. Yeah. So what it does is inside this function I will create a variable called x. I will say the x is 0. Then I will write a for each loop. So this my array, the for each. Okay, don't let me use for each. We haven't learned about it. Okay, I will use a for loop, which we've learned about. Let's say let me give this. This is just VS Code just giving me everything. So let me just edit them and I will explain. In case you've not gone through my previous videos, you will learn about for loop there. You can just go back. Now what this is a typical for loop that have the expression 1, expression 2, expression 3. We want to loop into the array that will be passed into this function. I will say let I equal to 0. Then when I is still less than the number of values inside the array, increment the I. And what you would do for me, and what I want this to do for me is, so I want it to add every of the value plus equal to every of the value inside the array. I hope you understand this. This is the array and this I is like the index. I can easily access each of the value of the array when I iterate through it. I hope you remember the previous video. So once I iterate through the values, then I will be adding the value to this variable x here. And once I'm done iterating, I want to return, this is the keyword I'm trying to introduce, return this value x. And that's the end of my function. So I can create an array called numbers. Let me just give it a good, let me just create age. Then this is an array of age, people's age. Let's say 3, 18, 17, 5. So now I want to do something. I want to say, okay, let age total be equal to the sum of array. I want to call sum array value. I want to call my function now. Then remember, my function will collect an argument that's an array. So I will pass in the array that is age. Now, then I will log into my console, my age total, and let's see what we have here. Occurred error, cannot read properties of undefined reading log. I think there's an error. Okay, this dot, that was the mistake I think I made. So let me refresh again. Yes, I got 84. Okay, now how do I get 84? We've already done every of the calculation in the function, and we return the value, meaning after the function has done all its calculation, it's just return the value of this x. So we now save the value of the x inside this age total, then we log it into the console. What it does is, now it will iterate through this array. The first time it iterates, the array value will be 21. It will say x plus 21, which is 21. It will save it as 21. Iterate again, the next value will be 23. They will now say 23 plus the 21, which is the x now is 21, which will be 44, right? Then it will iterate again, 18 plus 44. That's how it will continue adding the value. You can see we've used function to solve a problem, and this is how we use function to solve a problem. And with the return keyword, we will be able to return our final answer. And one thing about this return keyword is that if you declare a return at the beginning of your function, it will stop the function. What return does is once JavaScript sees this return value, any other thing under, let's say in my function, I want to log function end here. Normally, since I've called the function, normally this function is supposed to be logged, but it will not log. You can see VS Code make this thing dim for me, telling me that unreachable code detected. The reason is because once it has reached this return, any other code below the return will never run. I hope you understand this. Now, the final thing we'll be creating is, which will be useful, is we want to create a temperature converter. So I will create a function called I hope I get it, Fahrenheit to Celsius. So I want to create a function that converts Fahrenheit to Celsius. Let me say my Fahrenheit is, let me just say FER. Let me just name it anything, the parameter. And what it does is, remember in mathematics, to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, we say 5 divided by 9, then multiply by the Fahrenheit value minus 32 to give us the value in Celsius. So we can do this in code by saying return 5/9 multiply by open bracket our value, which is Fahrenheit, minus 32. So this function can help us. Now I can decide to say, okay, I want to log into the console to see the value. I want to log Fahrenheit to Celsius. I want to convert 11 Fahrenheit to Celsius. So once I go to the console and I reload, I can see the value. If I say, okay, I want to convert 200 Fahrenheit to Celsius, I can still go to the console, reload, and I will see the value. So this is basically how function actually works. Function, you can pass more than one parameters to it. You can pass any value as parameter, be it string, number, array, object. Are we following? Alright, another thing I want you to learn is arrow function. Now in ES6 JavaScript, arrow function was introduced to JavaScript, making writing functions simplified. So I'm going to be commenting this out, and let's see how arrow function work. Let me start with this sum array function. I want to convert this sum array function to an arrow function. In arrow function, this is how we declare an arrow function. We create, instead of me writing this function keyword, I will create a constant called sum array values. I will say equal to, then I will create my parentheses, then my arrow function, then open bracket, then everything that is inside here, I can easily put it in here. Let me comment it out first of all. Okay, that's good. Then my array parameter that is here. So same thing, once I log into the console, the total now, you will see nothing will change because it's still the same thing. Nothing will change. Only thing I did is just an arrow function, and an arrow function is actually good, and I will tell you a use case that we can use it. Now also, you can declare a normal function using this const variable. Some, you might see some people, instead of me saying Fahrenheit, some function Fahrenheit like this, some will say constant Fahrenheit to Celsius equal to a function Okay, I thought I was making a mistake. Sorry, don't bother yourself about that. Now, once you've understood and knows how to create a function like this, now let me give you a simplified way. Let's say, for example, we have a function, a simple function, like, let me just create it. Add, the function name is add to value, and this is my function, and I want to use an arrow function. An arrow function, I will say, okay, return, I want to add 2 to any value, so I will pass the value as parameter, and I will say x plus 2. That is, whenever I try to use my function and say add 2 to value, you can say add 2 to 6, and I will see the value which reference to session is not defined. Okay, pardon, let me comment this out since I've commented the function, and let me reload. Yes, I had 2 to 6, which is 8, right? Now in arrow function, this is correct, but we can also simplify this, because it is only a single statement that we have in our function, not multiple statements. We can remove the return keyword, we can remove the curly braces, and since we only have one argument, we can also simplify this by removing the parentheses. So this will also give us the correct answer. Now you can see we still get the same thing. So this is how arrow function actually works. You can see we've simplified something that looks very big to something that is small, and this is one of the best practices. Always at least make your code concise always. And this is basically what you need to know for now about functions, and maybe in the coming videos we'll learn more about types of functions that we have, higher order function, and the rest of it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one.